Marriage is compromise. Unless your wife's idea of compromise is taking your kidney money and buying her sister a chocolate fountain. I'm Darren Whitlock, 42 years old, and I supervise a delivery fleet in a city that looks like Portland. Maine had a baby with disappointment. 3 weeks ago, Dr. Heller told me my left kidney was about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. We need to schedule surgery immediately, Darren. This can't wait. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. But according to my wife Marina, everything can wait, especially when her precious sister Amber is planning the wedding of the century. Darren, you don't understand, Marina said, not looking up from her laptop where she was browsing overpriced centerpieces. This is Amber's special day. She's been dreaming about this since she was 5. And I've been dreaming about not dying since I was born, I replied, waving the medical bills. Funny how priorities work. Marina finally looked at me, her perfectly contoured face showing the kind of irritation usually reserved for slow internet connections. Don't be so dramatic. The surgery can wait a month or 2. Amber needs us right now. What Amber needed was a reality check and a job, but I'd learned not to voice such revolutionary concepts in our house. My phone buzzed. Jake, my buddy from the fleet yard, texting his usual sarcasm. How's the kidney fund looking? Still got enough for both surgery and a chocolate fountain? Jake knew about Marina's latest obsession because I'd made the mistake of complaining to him. In a town this size, complaining to Jake was like broadcasting on the evening news. I walked to our bedroom where Marina was video calling Amber. Through the phone speaker, I could hear my sister-in-law's voice, shrill with excitement. Marina, I absolutely must have the ice sculpture. Kyle's family will think we're cheap if we don't have one, and the wedding planner says we need at least $3,000 more for the upgraded floral arrangements. $3,000. That was exactly what Dr. Heller's office needed as a down payment for my surgery. Don't worry, sweetie, Marina cooed into the phone. We'll figure something out. That's when I knew I was screwed. Later that night, I lay in bed listening to Marina whisper argue with Amber about vendor payments and guest lists. Every few minutes, she'd glance at me to make sure I was asleep. I wasn't. I was calculating how long my kidney could hold out versus how long this wedding planning nightmare would last. The next morning, Marina left early for a makeup consultation with a client. I knew she was really meeting Amber because she'd taken her checkbook. She never took her checkbook to real work. I called the bank to check our emergency fund balance. The automated voice cheerfully informed me that our savings account contained exactly $47.33. 3 months ago, it had contained $15,000. My kidney money was gone. I sat in my kitchen, staring at the coffee maker, wondering if this was what a heart attack felt like. Then I realized it probably wasn't a heart attack, because those happen to your heart, and mine had been surgically removed by my wife sometime around Amber's engagement announcement. The phone rang. Dr. Heller's office. Mr. Whitlock, we need to schedule your preoperative appointment. When can you come in for the financial consultation? How about never, I said. Turns out my wife donated my kidney fund to the Church of Amber's Eternal Happiness. The nurse paused. I'm sorry, sir. I don't understand. Neither do I said, and hung up. That afternoon, Marina came home with shopping bags and a guilty expression. She'd bought a new dress for the engagement party, shoes to match, and something called a bridal emergency kit that apparently cost more than my monthly medication. We need to talk, I said. Can it wait? Amber's coming over to show us the cake samples. Marina, where's our emergency fund? She froze like a deer in headlights. If deer wore too much mascara and had a shopping addiction. What do you mean? I mean our savings account is emptier than Amber's head. Where's the money? Marina's face went through several expressions: surprise, guilt, defiance, and finally the one I knew best: righteous indignation. Darren, this is Amber's wedding. Family comes first. I thought I was family. You are, but what? But I'm not Instagram worthy? But my kidney disease isn't as photogenic as Amber's engagement photos? Marina crossed her arms. You're being selfish. This wedding is important to my whole family. Your surgery can wait. My surgery can't wait. My kidney can't wait. I can't wait. That's when Amber walked in without knocking, because of course she did. She was carrying cake samples and wearing an expression of practiced innocence that would have made a politician jealous. Did I interrupt something? She asked, though her tone suggested she hoped she had. Darren's being difficult about the wedding expenses, Marina said. Amber's eyes lit up with the kind of malicious joy usually reserved for reality TV stars. Oh, Darren, still worried about that little medical thing? I'm sure it's not that serious. Doctors exaggerate everything these days. That little medical thing. My kidney failure was a little medical thing. I looked at my wife, who was nodding in agreement, and at my sister-in-law, who was already cutting into a cake sample worth more than my daily medication, and I realized something important. I was done compromising. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to the law office of Ms. Patricia Tremaine, a woman Jake had described as a pit bull in Prada who'd sue her own mother for emotional damages. Ms. Tremaine's office smelled like expensive leather and broken dreams. She listened to my story with the kind of professional interest that costs $300 an hour. Let me understand this correctly, she said, tapping her pen against a legal pad. Your wife withdrew $15,000 from your joint savings account without your knowledge or consent and gave it to her sister for wedding expenses while you have a documented medical emergency requiring surgery? That's the size of it. And you want to file for divorce and pursue financial recovery? I want to pursue justice. The divorce is just paperwork. Ms. Tremaine smiled like a shark who'd just spotted a wounded surfer. Mr. Whitlock, I think we can do better than justice. I think we can do revenge. While Ms. Tremaine prepared the legal documents, I went home to pack some clothes. Marina was out, probably spending money we didn't have on things we didn't need. I found her laptop open on the kitchen table, still logged into her email. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not ashamed of it either. Marina's email revealed a conspiracy that would have impressed the mafia. She and Amber had been planning this financial heist for months. There were emails about borrowing from my medical fund, discussions about how Darren won't even notice until after the wedding, and most damning of all, a message from Amber that read, "If he complains, just remind him that family is forever, but medical problems are temporary. LOL. LOL. My kidney disease was LOL worthy to my sister-in-law, but the worst email was from Marina to her mother. Darren's being his usual selfish self about money. I swear, sometimes I think he cares more about his health than my family's happiness. Amber's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. His kidney thing can wait. His kidney thing. I printed everything and drove back to Ms. Tremaine's office. This changes things, she said after reviewing the emails. This isn't just financial disagreement between spouses. This is conspiracy to commit theft and deliberate medical endangerment. We can file criminal charges. No, I said. I don't want them in jail. I want them humiliated. Ms. Tremaine's smile grew wider. Mr. Whitlock, I think you and I are going to get along just fine. That evening, I checked into a hotel and started making phone calls. The first was to Jake. About time you grew a spine, he said when I explained the situation. What do you need? Information. I need to know everything about Amber's wedding plans. Vendors, venues, guest lists, everything. Consider it done. My cousin works at the catering company Amber hired. Apparently, she's been a nightmare to deal with. They'll be happy to help. The second call was to Dr. Heller's office. Mr. Whitlock, we've been trying to reach you about scheduling. I'll have the money for surgery within 2 weeks, I said. I'm liquidating some assets. The third call was to Marina. She answered on the first ring, probably expecting it to be Amber with another wedding emergency. Darren, where are you? I came home and your clothes were gone. I'm staying at a hotel until we sort this out. Sort what out? You're being ridiculous about this whole thing. Marina, I know about the emails. Silence. Long, guilty silence. What emails? The ones where you and Amber planned to steal my medical fund. The ones where you called my kidney disease his kidney thing. The ones where you laughed about me not noticing until after the wedding. More silence. Then, Darren, I can explain. No need. My lawyer already has copies of everything. Your lawyer? Darren, you can't be serious about this. I'm serious as a kidney stone, which coincidentally is what started this whole mess. But what about Amber's wedding? And there it was. Even caught red-handed, even facing divorce and legal action, Marina's first concern was still Amber's wedding. What about it? I asked. The wedding is in 10 days. If you cause problems now, you'll ruin everything. Marina, you already ruined everything. I'm just making it official. I hung up and ordered room service. For the first time in months, I had an appetite. The next morning, Ms. Tremaine called with an update. I've filed the divorce papers and sent cease and desist letters to all of Amber's wedding vendors, informing them that any funds they received from Marina Whitlock were obtained through theft and that they may be required to return payment pending legal resolution. What does that mean in English? It means Amber's wedding just became a legal liability for every vendor involved. Most of them will cancel their contracts rather than risk getting dragged into court. And then what happens? Then we sit back and watch the fireworks. The fireworks started around noon. Marina called me 17 times in 2 hours. I didn't answer. Amber called 6 times and left 3 voicemails, each one more hysterical than the last. Jake called at 2 p.m., laughing so hard he could barely speak. Dude, you've got to see this. Amber just got kicked out of the wedding venue. Physically. By security. My cousin filmed the whole thing. Send me the video. Already posted it on Facebook. It's got 47 shares and counting. That evening, Marina showed up at my hotel. The desk clerk called my room to announce her arrival, and I told him to send her up. It was time for a conversation. She knocked on my door. When I opened it, she looked like she'd been crying for hours. Her makeup was smeared, her hair was disheveled, and her hands were shaking. Darren, please. You have to stop this. Amber's wedding is ruined. The venue canceled, the caterer canceled, even the photographer canceled. She's having a complete breakdown. Good, I said. Maybe now she'll understand how I felt when I found out my kidney fund was gone. But this is different. This is her wedding day. This is the most important day of her life. And staying alive is the most important thing in mine. Funny how that works. Marina pushed past me into the hotel room and started pacing like a caged animal. You don't understand. Amber's fiancé Kyle is furious. He's talking about calling off the engagement. His family thinks we're all crazy. My mother won't stop crying. Everyone's blaming me. Everyone should blame you. You stole $15,000 from your dying husband to pay for your sister's party. You're not dying. I could be. That's the point of emergency surgery, Marina. It's for emergencies. She sat down on the hotel bed and put her head in her hands. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. What do you want? She asked. What will it take to make this stop? I want my money back. I want my surgery scheduled. And I want you and Amber to understand that actions have consequences. The money's already been spent. The deposits are non-refundable. Then I guess you'd better figure out how to get it back. Marina looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. I never thought you'd actually do this. I never thought you'd destroy my family over money. I'm not destroying your family over money, Marina. I'm destroying your family because you chose your sister's wedding over my life. There's a difference. She left without another word. I ordered another room service dinner, and watched Jake's video of Amber getting escorted out of the wedding venue. It had been shared 127 times and had 89 comments, most of them variations on, "What did she do?" and "This is hilarious." Tomorrow, I thought, was going to be even more interesting. The next morning brought a phone call from Kyle, Amber's fiancé. I'd met him exactly 3 times, and each meeting had convinced me that he had the personality of lukewarm oatmeal and the backbone of a jellyfish. "Darren, we need to talk," he said, trying to sound authoritative and failing miserably. "Talk away, Kyle. This legal stuff you're doing is causing serious problems for everyone. Amber's beside herself, Marina's a wreck, and now my parents are asking questions about your family's financial stability." "Your parents should be asking questions, like why their son is marrying into a family of thieves." "That's not fair. Marina was just trying to help with the wedding. Marina was just trying to steal my kidney money. But hey, details, right?" Kyle was quiet for a moment. Then, "Look, what if we work something out? What if Amber and I postpone the wedding for a few months, give everyone time to cool down?" "Kyle, let me explain something to you. Your fiancé convinced my wife to steal $15,000 from my medical fund while I'm facing kidney failure. This isn't a misunderstanding that can be solved by postponing a party. This is theft. But surely we can't. The only thing that gets worked out now is how much of my money I get back and how much of my dignity I recover by watching your future sister-in-law face the consequences of her actions." I hung up and called Ms. Tremaine. "How's our case progressing?" "Better than expected," she said. "I've been in contact with most of the vendors Amber hired. The venue has already refunded the deposit rather than deal with potential legal issues. The caterer is following suit. The florist is being stubborn, but they'll cave when they realize the alternative is being named as co-defendants in a theft case." "What about the money Marina already spent?" "That's where things get interesting. Apparently, Amber has been documenting everything on social media. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. She's posted receipts, vendor meetings, even videos of her trying on dresses purchased with your money. It's all evidence." "Evidence of what?" "Evidence that she knew exactly where the money came from and chose to accept stolen funds anyway. That makes her an accessory to theft." I felt a warm glow in my chest that had nothing to do with kidney disease. That afternoon, Jake called with an update from the rumor mill. "Amber's trying to salvage the wedding by switching to cheaper vendors," he said. "But word's gotten around about the legal issues. Nobody wants to work with her. Plus, that video of her getting kicked out of the venue has gone viral locally. She's become a meme." "A meme?" "Yeah, people are calling it Bridezilla Gets Served. Someone even made a remix with dramatic music." I spent the evening watching social media explode with commentary about Amber's wedding disaster. The local Facebook groups were having a field day, with everyone sharing their own stories about entitled brides and wedding drama. Several people had recognized Amber from the video and were posting screenshots of her previous social media posts about the wedding, including one where she'd bragged about having unlimited funds for the perfect day. The comments were brutal. Unlimited funds that weren't even hers. Imagine stealing from your sick brother-in-law for a party. This is why I eloped. Plot twist. The groom should run. Marina called at 10 p.m., sobbing. "Darren, you have to see what people are saying online. They're destroying Amber. They're destroying our whole family. No, Marina, you and Amber destroyed our family. Social media is just documenting it. But the things they're saying, they're calling her a thief, calling me a thief. People I've known for years are sharing that horrible video. Are they wrong? Are you not thieves? We were just trying to help with the wedding. You were just trying to steal my medical money. The wedding was your excuse. Please, Darren, I'm begging you, make this stop." "I can't make it stop, Marina. This is what happens when your private crimes become public knowledge. You wanted to play games with my life. Now you get to play games with your reputation." She hung up on me. The next day brought news that Kyle's parents had driven up from Boston to assess the situation. According to Jake's intelligence network, they'd taken one look at the social media firestorm, the canceled vendors, and Amber's increasingly hysterical behavior, and had suggested that Kyle reconsider his options. Kyle's mom apparently said that marrying into a family with financial ethics issues could damage Kyle's career prospects, Jake reported. His dad was more direct. He called Amber a gold digger and said Kyle could do better. What did Kyle say? Nothing, but he's been staying at his parents' hotel instead of with Amber. That afternoon, I received a visit from Marina's mother, Helen, a woman who'd never liked me and had never pretended otherwise. She showed up at my hotel looking like she'd aged 10 years in the past week. "Darren, this has gone far enough," she said without preamble. "Has it? Because from where I'm sitting, it's just getting started. You're destroying 2 young women's lives over money. I'm holding 2 grown women accountable for stealing money from a sick man. There's a difference. But Amber's wedding was paid for with stolen money. That makes it a crime scene with a cake." Helen's face turned red. "You always were selfish. Marina deserved better than you." Marina deserved exactly what she got. A husband who worked hard, saved money, and trusted her with his life. Unfortunately, she decided to gamble with all 3. The money can be paid back. With what? Amber doesn't have a job. Marina's makeup business barely covers her shopping addiction, and now nobody wants to hire either of them because they're local celebrities for all the wrong reasons. Helen left without another word, but not before muttering something about ungrateful men and family loyalty. That evening, Ms. Tremaine called with more good news. "I've recovered about 60% of your money from vendor refunds," she said. "The rest is going to require more aggressive action." "What kind of aggressive action?" "Asset seizure. Marina and Amber both own valuable items purchased with your money. Jewelry, electronics, that ridiculous wedding dress Amber bought. We can force them to sell everything to pay back what they stole." "Do it." "There's one more thing. I've been contacted by a local news station. They want to do a story about medical fund theft. Apparently, it's becoming a bigger problem than people realize." "Are you suggesting I go on TV?" "I'm suggesting that public pressure might motivate your wife and sister-in-law to settle this quickly and quietly. Or it might motivate them to leave town and never come back." "Would that be such a bad thing?" I thought about it. Marina and Amber, driven out of town by their own greed and stupidity, forced to start over somewhere else where nobody knew about their crimes. "Schedule the interview," I said. The news interview aired on a Tuesday. I'd expected maybe a few hundred people to see it, but I'd underestimated the power of a good David versus Goliath story, especially when David was a sick man fighting for his life, and Goliath was 2 entitled women who'd stolen his kidney money for a wedding. The story went viral. Within 24 hours, the video had been shared thousands of times across multiple platforms. Local news stations in other cities picked it up. Someone created a GoFundMe for my medical expenses that raised $3,000 in the first day. The hashtag #YaKidneyMoneyGate started trending regionally. Marina called me at 6 a.m. hysterical. "Darren, what have you done? Everyone knows who we are now. I can't leave the house. Amber can't leave the house. People are driving by our street just to take pictures. Welcome to the consequences of your actions." "This isn't consequences. This is public humiliation." "Yes, it is. How does it feel?" "People at the grocery store are staring at me. My clients are canceling appointments. Amber's lost 3,000 Instagram followers overnight. Maybe she can get a job now that she's not busy being an influencer." "You don't understand. Kyle broke up with her. His parents threatened to disown him if he married her. She's devastated." "Good. Maybe now she understands how I felt when I found out my kidney money was gone." "But she's saying things about hurting herself." That stopped me cold. Whatever else Amber was, she was still a human being. "Is she serious?" "I don't know. She's locked herself in her apartment. She won't answer the door." "Then call the police for a wellness check. But don't call me expecting sympathy for someone who stole from a dying man." You're not dying. I could be. That's what emergency surgery means, Marina. I hung up and immediately called Jake. Can you check on Amber? Marina says she's making threats about hurting herself. Already on it, Jake said. My girlfriend works at the crisis center. She's sending someone over. Thanks. No problem. But Darren, you might want to ease up a little. This thing is getting bigger than you planned. Jake was right. The story had taken on a life of its own. Social media was full of people sharing their own stories about family members who'd stolen money, about medical emergencies that had been ignored for trivial reasons, about entitled relatives who'd caused financial ruin. I'd become the poster child for standing up to family bullies, but I'd also become the man who'd driven his sister-in-law to a mental health crisis. That afternoon, I drove to Amber's apartment complex. There were news vans parked outside and reporters interviewing neighbors. I parked around the corner and called Ms. Tremaine. This is getting out of hand, I said. Is it? You wanted them to face consequences for their actions. They're facing consequences. I wanted them humiliated, not hospitalized. Amber's fine. The crisis team checked on her. She was being dramatic for attention, which seems to be her default setting. Are you sure? I'm sure. But I'm also sure that this level of public attention is working in our favor. I've received calls from Marina's lawyer about settling out of court. What kind of settlement? Full restitution of the stolen money, plus damages for emotional distress and medical complications caused by the delay in your surgery. How much? $25,000. I was quiet for a moment. $25,000 was more than they'd stolen, more than I'd expected to recover, more than enough to pay for my surgery and cover the expenses of this legal battle. What's the catch? No catch. They want this to go away. The public attention is destroying both their lives. Marina's lost most of her clients. Amber can't show her face in public. And Kyle's family has threatened legal action if either of them tries to contact him. And if I don't settle? Then we go to court. This gets even more public attention, and they probably end up owing you even more money. But they might also end up in jail, which means you'd never see a dime. That evening, I sat in my hotel room weighing my options. I could take the settlement, get my surgery, and move on with my life. Or I could continue the legal battle, risk getting nothing, and potentially destroy two women who'd already been publicly humiliated beyond anything I'd originally intended. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Kyle. Can we meet? I have something you need to know about Amber and Marina. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., coffee shop on Main Street. Kyle looked terrible. He'd lost weight, his hair was disheveled, and he had the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't slept in days. Thank you for meeting me, he said, sliding into the booth across from me. What do you want to tell me? The truth about why Marina really gave Amber the money. I waited. Amber's been blackmailing Marina for 2 years, Kyle said. She found out Marina had an affair with your neighbor, Mr. Lyle, and she's been using it to control her ever since. The world tilted sideways. Marina had cheated on me, with Bob Lyle, the divorced accountant who lived 3 houses down and couldn't maintain eye contact during neighborhood barbecues. How do you know this? Amber told me everything the night I broke up with her. She was desperate to make me understand why she needed the wedding to be perfect, why she'd been so demanding with Marina. She said Marina owed her for keeping the affair secret. For 2 years? For 2 years, every time Amber wanted something, money, clothes, help with rent, she'd threaten to tell you about the affair. Marina's been paying her sister's bills to keep her quiet. And the wedding? The wedding was supposed to be the final payment. Amber promised that if Marina paid for everything, she'd never mention the affair again. Marina saw it as buying her freedom. I sat back in the booth trying to process this information. My wife hadn't just stolen from me. She'd been living a double life for 2 years. And my sister-in-law wasn't just entitled, she was a blackmailer. Why are you telling me this? Because Amber destroyed my life too. My parents won't speak to me. My friends think I'm an idiot for getting involved with her, and my reputation is ruined by association, but mostly because what she did to you and Marina was wrong, even if Marina deserved some of it. What do you mean, deserved some of it? The affair, Darren. Marina cheated on you while you were working 60-hour weeks to save for a house. She deserved to be blackmailed for that. Kyle left, and I sat in the coffee shop for another hour, drinking cold coffee and trying to figure out what to do with this new information. My wife was a cheater and a thief. My sister-in-law was a blackmailer and a thief, and I was a sick man who'd been betrayed by everyone he'd trusted. I called Ms. Tremaine. "Forget the settlement," I said. "I want to destroy them both." The first thing I did was drive to Bob Lyle's house. Bob was in his garage working on a vintage motorcycle that he'd been restoring for 3 years. When he saw me walking up his driveway, he dropped his wrench and looked like he was about to run. "Hello, Bob." "Darren. Hey, how are you feeling? I heard about the kidney thing." "I'm feeling enlightened. Kyle told me some interesting things about you and Marina." Bob's face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The question is whether you want to discuss it here in your garage or in front of your ex-wife during your custody hearing next month." Bob sat down heavily on a workbench. "How long have you known?" "About an hour, but I'm learning fast. How long did the affair last?" 6 months, maybe 8. It ended 2 years ago, I swear." "Why did it end?" "Because Amber found out and threatened to tell everyone unless Marina stopped seeing me. She said it would ruin both our reputations. But she didn't tell everyone. She just used it to control Marina." "Yeah, Marina said Amber was bleeding her dry, making her pay for everything to keep quiet." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Bob, I need you to repeat everything you just told me, but this time for the record." "Darren, I can't." "You can, and you will. Because the alternative is me calling your ex-wife right now and telling her that you've been having affairs with married women while fighting for custody of your kids." Bob looked at the phone, then at me, then at the motorcycle he'd never finish. "What do you want me to say?" 20 minutes later, I had a full confession on video. Bob admitted to the affair, confirmed that Amber had been blackmailing Marina, and even provided details about payments Marina had made to keep Amber quiet. "What happens now?" Bob asked after I stopped recording. "Now you stay away from my wife, you keep your mouth shut about this conversation, and you pray that I'm feeling merciful when this is all over." I left Bob in his garage and drove to Jake's house. Jake took one look at my face and handed me a beer. "You look like someone who just found out his whole life was a lie." "Close enough." I told him about Kyle's revelation and Bob's confession. Jake whistled low. "So Marina's been getting blackmailed and you've been getting played by everyone. That's about the size of it. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve." The next morning, I called Ms. Tremaine and played her Bob's confession. "This changes everything," she said. "Marina wasn't just stealing from you. She was being extorted. That doesn't excuse the theft, but it does give us leverage against Amber." "What kind of leverage?" "Blackmail is a felony. With Bob's confession and Marina's financial records, we can prove that Amber has been extorting money from your wife for 2 years. That's a much more serious crime than stealing your medical fund. Can we use it?" "We can use it to destroy Amber completely. But Darren, you need to understand that this will also destroy Marina. The affair will become public record. Everyone will know." I thought about Marina sitting in our house, probably wondering when the other shoe was going to drop. I thought about all the nights she'd come home late, all the times she'd been distant and distracted, all the lies she'd told while I was working overtime to save money for our future. "Do it." That afternoon, Ms. Tremaine filed additional charges against Amber for extortion and blackmail. She also released Bob's confession to the media, along with financial records showing the pattern of payments Marina had made to Amber over 2 years. The story exploded again, but this time it was bigger. This wasn't just about wedding theft anymore. It was about a 2-year blackmail scheme that had culminated in medical fund theft. The headlines were brutal. Sister's blackmail scheme leads to medical fund theft. Bride to be extorted sister for wedding money. Affair, blackmail, and stolen kidney money. A family's downfall. Marina called me that evening, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. "Darren, please. Everyone knows about the affair now. My mother won't speak to me. My clients have all canceled. People are calling me horrible names online. How does it feel to have your private business become public knowledge? It feels awful. It feels like my life is over. Now you know how I felt when I found out you'd stolen my kidney money. But the affair, that was different. That was a mistake. I was lonely. You were always working, and Bob was just there. And the blackmail? Was that a mistake too? I didn't know what else to do. Amber said she'd tell everyone, ruin both our lives. I thought if I just gave her what she wanted, it would all go away. So you gave her my kidney money. I thought I could replace it before you needed the surgery. I thought I had more time. You thought wrong. Darren, please. I know I made mistakes, but I love you. We can get through this. No, Marina, we can't. You chose to have an affair. You chose to pay blackmail. You chose to steal from me. Those weren't mistakes. Those were decisions. And now, you get to live with the consequences. I hung up and turned off my phone. The next morning, Jake called my hotel room. You need to see this, he said. Amber's apartment building is surrounded by reporters. Someone leaked that she's been living rent-free for 2 years because Marina was paying her bills. What's she doing? Hiding. But her landlord kicked her out this morning. Apparently, he doesn't want the negative publicity. Where's she going to go? That's the thing. Nobody wants to help her. Kyle won't take her calls. Her friends have all distanced themselves, and Marina's broke from paying blackmail for 2 years. That afternoon, I drove past Marina's mother's house and saw Amber's car in the driveway, packed with boxes and suitcases. Through the window, I could see Helen gesturing angrily while Amber sat on the couch with her head in her hands. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Amber. I know you hate me, but I need to talk to you, please. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. You have 5 minutes. Coffee shop on Main Street. 1 hour. Amber looked like she'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes were wrinkled, and her famous Instagram-ready makeup was nowhere to be seen. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. You have 4 minutes and 30 seconds left. I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know that I never meant for it to go this far. You blackmailed my wife for 2 years and stole my medical fund. How much further could it have gone? I was scared. When I found out about the affair, I was angry at Marina for cheating on you, and I was angry at myself for keeping the secret. So I made her pay for it. And you kept making her pay. I know it was wrong. But every time I tried to stop, I needed money for something, and it was so easy to just ask Marina. She never said no. Because you were blackmailing her. Because I was weak and selfish and stupid. Amber started crying. And now I've lost everything. Kyle's gone, my friends are gone, I can't get a job because everyone knows who I am, and I have nowhere to live. Good. I deserve this. I know I deserve this, but Marina doesn't. She made mistakes, but she was trying to protect her marriage. She was trying to protect herself. There's a difference. Amber wiped her eyes with a napkin. What do you want from me? What will it take to make this stop? I want you to disappear. I want you to leave town, change your name, and never contact Marina or me again. And if I do that, then maybe I won't pursue the criminal charges for blackmail. Amber nodded slowly. Okay, I'll go. But Darren, I'm sorry. I'm truly, deeply sorry for what I did to you. Your time's up, I said, and walked away. That evening I called Ms. Tremaine. I want to accept Marina's settlement offer, I said. Which offer? She's made 3 today, each one higher than the last. The highest one. That would be $50,000, plus she signs over her car and agrees to never contact you again. Deal. What about the criminal charges against Amber? Drop them if she leaves town within 48 hours. Are you sure? We could put her in prison. I'm sure. Prison would just make her a victim. This way, she's just a cautionary tale. The next morning, I received a cashier's check for $50,000 and the title to Marina's car. I also received a handwritten note. Darren, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I hope someday you can find peace. I loved you, even when I was betraying you. That probably doesn't mean anything now, but it's true. Marina. I threw the note away and called Dr. Heller's office to schedule my surgery. 2 days later, Jake helped me move Marina's belongings out of our house and into a storage unit. We worked in silence, packing up 8 years of marriage into cardboard boxes. You okay? Jake asked as we loaded the last box into his truck. I'm getting there. Any regrets? I looked at the house Marina and I had bought together, at the garden she'd planted, at the mailbox with both our names on it. Yeah, I said. I regret not doing this sooner. That evening, I sat in my empty house, drinking a beer and watching the sunset through windows that Marina would never look through again. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Kyle. Amber left town this morning. Thought you should know. I deleted the message and finished my beer. Tomorrow, I would start over. Tomorrow, I would begin the process of rebuilding my life without the people who had betrayed me. But tonight, I was going to enjoy the silence of a house that was finally, completely mine.